The call came just after lunch in a dimly lit kitchen when the snowmelt outside hissed like soda on hot blacktop. Jonathan Roberts received a call from Mayfield Clock and Repair, urging him to visit due to a discovery inside his grandfather's clock. The voice on the line was cautious, prompting Jonathan to grip a chair tightly. He agreed to visit in 15 minutes, leaving his coffee unfinished as his mind raced. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new story. Jonathan had inherited the grandfather clock 2 months prior, after his grandfather's apartment was packed up. The clock, a silent presence in his grandfather's home, had stopped working the year his grandmother died. His grandfather had attempted to fix it once but eventually left it to rest. When Jonathan moved it to his place, he treated it with care, aware of its significance and the memories it held. He hoped to repair it himself but feared causing irreparable damage. He found Mayfield Clock and Repair through a neighbor's recommendation. The shop, near the river, smelled of brass and lemon oil. Inside, a woman with a tight braid and a man with a white mustache greeted him. They identified themselves as antiquarian horologists or clock doctors. Jonathan handed over the clock, expecting it to be cleaned and repaired. He didn't anticipate a call the next day, urging him to return immediately. Driving to the shop, Jonathan reflected on his grandfather's hands and the moments they shared. Upon arrival, the woman with a braid met him with a curious expression. She assured him they hadn't touched anything inside the clock. The clock stood vulnerable on a table, its hood removed, revealing its inner workings. The man with the mustache explained that old clockmakers often hid things within the cases, notes, signatures, little secrets. This clock had a false panel at the back where they heard a rattle. The woman pried the panel open, revealing a cavity with something wrapped inside, tied with string. Jonathan stared at the discovery, noting the absence of his name or any markings on it. The silence in the room spoke volumes, leaving the decision of what to do next hanging in the air. Jonathan felt a tightness in his chest as he reached for an old paper, reminiscent of the way his grandfather would glance at the clock while saying goodnight. The room was cool and dry, like an untouched hotel drawer. He carefully placed the brittle paper on a clean cloth, his hand steadying it as if it might escape. A white-mustached man adjusted the lamp to provide even lighting, then stepped back, giving Jonathan space. As Jonathan untied the string and unfolded the paper, he recognized the handwriting from old Christmas tags and grocery lists. He read aloud, needing the sound to make it real. "To whoever finds this, and to whoever carries our name. To my boys if they are reading, and to their kids one day. To you, Jonathan, if that's you there." Overcome with emotion, Jonathan paused, the room feeling distant as he continued reading. Arthur Roberts, the letter's author, described buying a clock after returning from war, feeling wrong with money in his pocket and time in his hand. The clock became a silent friend, marking time without questioning Arthur's quiet moments or clenched fists. It was present during family memories, offering comfort and marking the passage of time. Arthur reflected on time's ownership over people, writing with the clock's pendulum still, feeling wrong in the silence. He confessed to keeping a secret, prompted by the clock's presence. Before meeting Jonathan's grandmother, Arthur loved a woman named Margaret in a distant town. Despite not making promises due to the uncertainty of war, he promised to write and return if he survived. However, upon returning home, he never fulfilled that promise, fearing the implications of a letter. Arthur admitted cowardice, choosing not to write to Margaret, overwhelmed by time's weight. He bought the clock for honesty, a machine fulfilling its purpose. The clock's chimes reminded him of church bells, offering solace as he tried to keep promises to himself. Arthur never told Jonathan's father or Grace about Margaret, fearing to ask for more forgiveness. Instead, he asked the reader for attention, not forgiveness. He urged them to recognize time's indifference if left unchecked. Arthur speculated about a son named David, likely older than Jonathan, sharing Arthur's features. A letter from Margaret, delayed in reaching him, mentioned David resembling Arthur. Arthur replied once, sending money but not himself, burying the thought deep within. Reflecting on his choices, Arthur wished he could have had both the clock and Jonathan's grandmother, lamenting the self-imposed decisions that seemed forced by the world. Arthur's letter begins with a warning of potential anger from its reader, Jonathan, but advises against holding on to it. Arthur reflects on the quiet life he shared with Jonathan's grandmother, filled with simple joys in the presence of their family. He requests that if a man named David H. or someone resembling Arthur approaches Jonathan with questions, he should welcome them. This request is not out of shame, but hope for reconnection. Arthur provides an address in England, acknowledging it might be outdated, but emphasizes the importance of the name. Arthur wrote the letter in 1973, prompted by a storm and the sight of a clock that symbolized unsaid work. He crafted a compartment in the clock to hide the letter, expressing gratitude if it is found posthumously, hoping his silence didn't prevail. He urges Jonathan to wind the clock and read the letter aloud, cherishing the perfection of a truly felt moment. Jonathan, overwhelmed with emotion, processes the letter's impact. He recalls his father, Tommy, a man who lived a tough life and never expressed his needs. Jonathan wonders if knowing about an older half-brother across the ocean would have changed Tommy's life. The thought of this newfound family connection becomes Jonathan's story, though he isn't ready to embrace it fully. The caretakers of the clock, a white-mustached man and a woman, offer Jonathan support without overwhelming him with sympathy. When asked if he's okay, Jonathan struggles to articulate his feelings, but appreciates their kindness. He decides to make a copy of the letter and keep the original safe, intending to return it to the clock when he brings it home. Not to hide it, but to preserve it. The clock is described as needing repairs, with the old man noting its sluggish chime. Jonathan feels a connection to the clock, wanting to thank it for keeping and revealing the secret. He drives home with a mix of emotions, contemplating the letter's significance and envisioning a future visit to the English address. Inside his apartment, he reflects on his grandfather's influence, recalling moments of learning and listening to the clock's tick. Jonathan isn't one to dwell on the past, preferring routine and responsibility. However, the letter opens a door in his mind that he can't ignore. He now has a name, an address, and a glimpse into a family he never knew, sparking curiosity about his heritage. The letter bridges the gap between past and present, connecting Jonathan to a legacy he hadn't considered before. Jonathan looked up an address online, intrigued by a place he had never visited. He spent time contemplating, feeling both foolish and brave. 2 days later, he received a call from a shop informing him that she's ready, referring to a clock he had taken for repairs. The shop owner, an old man, mentioned that a copy of Jonathan's letter was also ready, printed on high-quality paper. Jonathan appreciated the attention to detail and paid for the service, deeply grateful. The next morning, the clock was delivered to Jonathan's home, placed ceremonially in a designated corner. As he wound it, the pendulum began to swing, filling the room with its rhythmic ticking. He taped the copied letter inside the clock's panel door and stored the original safely under his bed. That evening, Jonathan, distracted, cooked spaghetti and later stood before the clock. He opened its door, touched the letter, and felt compelled to write. He began addressing future generations, describing himself and his family. He shared that his grandfather, Arthur, had purchased the clock after returning from a war and had hidden a letter in it, hinting at a connection to someone in England. Jonathan expressed a desire to find this person and welcome them if they ever came across the letter. He wrote about the significance of the clock's ticking, likening it to a heartbeat, and hoped it would always be present in their home. Jonathan wanted to convey that they were not alone, that they were connected through time. He folded the letter and placed it behind the copy in the clock, leaving it accessible. Jonathan then visited his mother with the letter. She reacted with a mix of emotions, processing the revelations about Arthur. She acknowledged the complexity of her father's character, recognizing both his strengths and weaknesses. They shared a moment of understanding, and she expressed gratitude for Jonathan's discovery. The narrative captures Jonathan's journey of connection, reflection, and understanding as he navigates the legacy of his grandfather and the ties that bind his family across time and distance. Jonathan and a woman reminisce about family stories, avoiding a significant topic by discussing smaller ones. At home, Jonathan writes emails to various organizations, including a historical society, seeking information about a name connected to his family history. He sends these emails with a sense of purpose, feeling like the action matches the steady ticking of a clock. As days pass, Jonathan resumes its routine, occasionally feeling the presence of someone at his door. He becomes attuned to the clock's needs, much like sensing the presence of a loved one nearby. 2 weeks later, he receives a response from Joyce, a librarian who has returned to Hastings to care for her mother. Joyce has found records of a Margaret Hargreaves and a David Hargreaves, linking them to Jonathan's family. She sends a photograph of a man who might be Jonathan's relative. Jonathan, moved by the discovery, asks Joyce to help him write a letter that doesn't seem like a sales pitch and requests the photograph. They exchange letters, allowing time to unfold naturally. One morning as the clock chimes, the doorbell rings. Jonathan answers to find a man named David, who resembles his father and holds his hat respectfully. The two men, Jonathan and David, share a moment of recognition and connection. They engage in a conversation that is not neat or easy, but meaningful. They exchange stories and photographs, each revealing pieces of their shared history. Later, they wind the clock together, feeling the sound resonate through them like an organ in a church. Jonathan reflects on the passage of time and the letters exchanged. He places his grandfather's letter alongside his own, symbolizing the continuity of their stories. As he goes to bed, he feels the cold air as a comforting shelter and imagines the pendulum swing. He thinks of his grandfather writing during a storm and a young man in England with a letter of rejection. He falls asleep dreaming of standing on a dock with a stranger, both understanding the horizon without guidance. In the morning, the clock chimes 7, and Jonathan, now aware of what he had been missing, rises. He places his hand on the clock's glass, feeling its mechanism like a heartbeat, and smiles, content in the newfound connection with his family history. The clock was more than just a machine or a piece of furniture with a measured voice. It was the house's memory and a good friend. It served as a thick rope thrown across a river, securely tied on both banks, holding on when voices failed. It fulfilled its purpose by keeping time, and with every strike, it not only indicated the time of day but also connected him to the long line of people who had stood before it and listened. As he wound it slow and steady, he spoke aloud to the seemingly empty room, acknowledging its presence with, "I hear you, I hear you." Then he proceeded to make coffee, as the day awaited, and the clock knew precisely how to count it.